Stoicism has received a massive resurgence in popularity in the last few decades, and for good reason. Stoicism is made to be practical and easily applied to real-life situations for all people in all circumstances. So in this video, I want to cover some of my favorite Stoic principles that will hopefully change your life as well. Number 1. Determine the limits of your control. One of the most important tasks of life and one of the cores of Stoicism is very nicely summed up by Epictetus when he said, "To identify and separate matters so that I can say clearly to myself which are externals not under my control and which have to do with choices I actually control." This was taken from the Discourses of Epictetus. I highly encourage that you read that as well. Epictetus takes this statement further and gives us some practical examples of what actually does and doesn't fall in our own control. He states that there are things which are within our power and there are things which are beyond our power. Within our power are opinion, desire, aversion, and in one word, whatever affairs are our own. Beyond our power are body, property, reputation, office, and in one word, whatever are not properly our own affairs. Some people argue that this is a bit outdated and should be updated for the modern times to include a third aspect, that are things that you can influence but not necessarily control fully. But many other people realize that the Stoics probably already took this into account. For example, one of the things that we have complete control over are the goals we set for ourselves, our aims. Yet, we might have no control over the goal itself. For example, I cannot say I'm going to win a cycling competition. I can say that I can influence my performance by training as hard as I can and performing to the best of my ability, but I cannot say for certain that I'm going to win. Therefore, that falls out of my own ability and control. Therefore, the Stoics would not set goals that falls outside of their control. Their goal would be to do the best that they can and not necessarily to win. Therefore, by not setting a goal outside ourselves, we spare ourselves the sorrow associated with not completing that goal. This will also, in turn, not disturb the tranquility of your own mind. This last portion was quoted from Irvine from his book, A Guide to the Good Life. This may sound like an incredibly simple part of Stoic philosophy, but often the simple things are the most overlooked and have the biggest effect on our lives. The thing is, we can easily discern what does and what does not fall within our control. So what of it? When we take time to discern what is in and what is out of our control every single day, we become much more free, as what we can control, we start to focus more of our time on, and what we cannot control, we realize that we are going to be wasting our time giving a single thought to it, thereby reducing our stress and anxiety and helping us to steer away from anger and toward peace of mind and tranquility. We become more mentally free and emotionally resilient once we are able to disassociate based on what is inside and what is outside of our control. Number 2. Meditate on your mortality. Memento Mori, or when we translate it into English, simply means remember you must die. This is to remind us of our own mortality and how fragile our lives really are. This is not to be morbid or to come to the conclusion that life is meaningless because why bother doing anything if tomorrow I may die. On the contrary, this is meant to inspire us to live life to the best that we can, to live life full of purpose and meaning, and to enjoy every single moment. This idea of meditating on our mortality has been practiced through many different cultures throughout all history and can be found in art, literature, philosophy, and more. As Seneca stated, "Let us prepare our minds as if we have come to the very end of life. Let us postpone nothing. Let us balance life's books each day. The one who puts the finishing touches on his life each day is never short of time." When we start to live from this perspective, holding our mortality in the forefront of our thoughts, all mundane problems, fears, and anxieties will slowly fade away. Do you really think you'd feel subconscious and shy walking through a shopping mall if you knew that tomorrow you wouldn't be on Earth anymore? You'll gain a deep confidence within yourself, derived from your resolve to live each day to its fullest, to live this little window of life to its fullest. All the things that aren't essential to your life will start to feel much less important to you, and all the things that are important to you, you will make a priority in your life. Because why purchase with your life things that aren't important to you? Once you start to live as though today is your last, you will start to fear less and live more. Number 3. Amor Fati Treat every challenge as an opportunity. Amor Fati means a love of fate. To best explain this, let's look at a practical example of how this works in real life. Say for example, you're driving to work in your car and you're already slightly late because your gate had some issues at your house or complex. You're already starting to feel slightly uneasy, a bit agitated and maybe frustrated that things aren't going your way. You turn into the next road on your way to work and you're met with bumper to bumper traffic. You're now even more late to work and nothing seems to be happening. As you sit there and become more frustrated and your blood starts to boil, thinking of how you're going to explain this to your seniors, explaining to them all the problems and unexpected occurrences that just happened to happen on that day. You're now at that point where if we started to crack an egg on your head, it would start to boil like in the Looney Tunes. But instead of being angry, frustrated and stressed over the situation, you can embrace what is happening to you in that moment and find peace. Think to yourself that this was my fate for the day. I cannot change those events that took place, and they were meant to happen to me today. All that I can do now is react to the events that have happened. You shift to the perspective of, these things are not happening to me, these things are happening as part of the nature of the world. Epictetus wrote about this, saying, "Do not seek for things to happen the way you want them to. Rather wish that what happens, happen the way it happens. Then you will be happy." We only get upset, frustrated, angry or disappointed when we have a preconceived notion of what should happen to ourselves in a given day. But when life deviates from our notions, we react with these emotions, where instead we should focus on embracing these deviations in life. So if we wish for things to happen to us as they do, we will spare ourselves the trouble of disappointment. It is essentially the Stoic mindset you adopt to take anything that happens to you and turn it for the best, turning these problems and trials into training and opportunities. Number 4. Wealth is in not wanting. When we think of wealthy people today, we may think of the super successful entrepreneurs like Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, and Warren Buffett. Or our minds might go to the Instagram perfect lifestyle type of people, those with fancy cars and yachts and champagne on the beach and everything else they could ever want at their fingertips. However, if we take a look at an interaction from the life of Joseph Heller, we might think differently. Joseph Heller, the man who wrote the novel Catch-22, was invited to a party by a billionaire hedge fund manager at Shetland Island. Kurt Vonnegut, a friend of Joseph Heller, commented to Heller saying that this wealthy hedge fund manager has made more money in a single day than Heller's book has made in its entire lifespan in sales. To which Heller responds saying, "Yes, but I have something that he will never have. Enough." That is indeed true wealth, to know the limit of what you need, and not having to constantly strive for more for the rest of your life. As Epictetus says, wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. The Stoics believed that our possessions are temporary, as we are. They believe that our opinion of the object and the value it has to us is what mattered, not the thing itself. Many studies have reported that past a certain income level, gaining more money does not drastically increase your level of happiness. Essentially, once your basic needs are met and you're able to live relatively comfortably, you'll not experience a drastic change in your level of happiness if your income level grew in the future. In fact, some may say that past a certain point, more money brings about more problems. Now don't get me wrong, I'm not against wealth, and nor were the Stoics. Marcus Aurelius was emperor with vast amounts of wealth, and Seneca was a wealthy man. They knew wealth, but their happiness wasn't derived from their material possessions. Their happiness came from what they could do and what they could give to others. So by all means, become self-sufficient, become wealthy, but do not aspire to be so because you think that it will solve all your problems and make you eternally happy. Yes, some problems can be solved by having money, but some are created by having too much. It is a balance that must be kept, and thinking that wealth will solve all your problems and bring you happiness will lead you down the rabbit hole of anger and bitterness until you have it. Things will not make us happy. We can change the way we live our lives and see wealth by questioning our needs and eliminating unnecessary wants from our life. The more we want things, the more we have to work to get them, and thus, eventually, our things will own us. A book I'd recommend for you to re-look at the things you see and the things you want in your life is a book called Goodbye Things by Fumio Sasaki. Number 5. It's okay to ask for help. If someone is not open to learn, they are unteachable, and an unteachable individual cannot attain wisdom, as he can only rely on his own knowledge, and that will not take him very far. To become wise, you need to be open to learn from everything and everyone. We often feel like asking for help is a sign of weakness, showing others that we lack the ability to do it ourselves, when in fact it is sometimes the strongest thing we can do. We let go of our ego and pride and humble ourselves to accept help from others. Again, a lot of people might see this as being too easy on ourselves and not demanding more from ourselves, but not realizing that in asking, we learn, we grow, and we become stronger and more resilient for the future. Stoics do what is required of them. They perform their tasks to the best of their abilities, as if it was the last thing that they would do. They help others and go beyond themselves, but are still strong enough to ask for help when needed. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Like a soldier storming a wall, you have a mission to accomplish, and if you've been wounded and need a comrade to pull you up, so what?" We are all in this together, learning, growing, becoming stronger, and doing everything we can to the best of our abilities. But when we need a hand, do not hesitate to say so. It takes courage to do that. So guys, that does it for this video. If you found it helpful, please leave a like so that hopefully some other people can see this and it helps them out as well. I hope that you got some value out of this video and the concepts that we talked about, and that from that you are able to live a happier, better, more fulfilled life. Until next time guys, bye bye.